जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरावनचारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधे जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद जय श्रील प्रभुपाद हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय श्रीमद् भगवद गीता की जय श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय हरे कृष्णा so I think we had a break of 2 weeks, right, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay.
Prabhu, how's your health, Prabhu, now?
Now perfectly fine now, all well, thank you so much. Hare Krishna. So anybody remembers which chapter we were doing?
Chapter 2,
Yeah,
Prabhu.
Chapter 2.
And which verses we completed?
59 and 6. No,
58
58 and 59.
yeah.
59
Yeah,
in last class.
yeah, correct. Okay. So can someone give a quick recap as to what all did we complete until now? Complete meaning in a kind of a nutshell summary.
So Prabhu, I think it all started with, I mean, the main, what we're discussing right now is verse from 54, where Arjuna asked 4 questions.
Correct.
And we are in the third part of the question, where we will be speaking about how a person is who is in Krishna consciousness sits. So that's where we are continuing with 60 today.
Mm.
We already finished 58 and 59, which is associated with the same question.
Yeah. So basically, he asks 4 questions to Krishna in verse number 54. Can someone remember what those questions are? Anybody? No?
Yeah, he asked that how does the person who's merged in the transcendence, how does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit and how does he walk?
Yeah, excellent. And why does he ask this question?
In his mind, he's having this question rather than asking Krishna directly that, okay, so the person who's like a yogi, who's a prajasnya, he wants to know that does he also has to go and fight? But
Yes.
instead of asking that question directly, he's indirectly asking Krishna
Yes.
about this.
Very good. Very good. So until verse number 53, Krishna talked to Arjun that he should become a yogi. Now, what Arjun's understanding about a yogi was that such a person does meditation, does not involve in family life, does not involve in any material activities, does not involve in any warfare. So he is thinking that at one end, Krishna is telling me, you should fight, you should fight. In verse number 2.18, he said, you should fight. In verse number 2.30, he said, and prior to starting Bhagavad Gita, in verse number 2 and 3 of second chapter, also he said, what kind of impurities have come upon you? Give it up and fight, sort of. So he is saying at one end, you're telling me you have to fight. At the other end, you're telling me you have to become a yogi. So then the question comes up is, does a yogi fight? That is an obvious question for him. So, but he does not ask him directly that does a yogi fight or not. He asks him indirectly. What are the characteristics of a yogi? What are the symptoms of a yogi? How, when I see a person, can I, uh, meaning, identify him as a yogi? Sort of. How does he deal with his senses? How does he deal with the rest of the material world? These are his questions. So Krishna answers them until last verse of this chapter, that is the second word, 72nd verse of this chapter. But he doesn't get the answer that he is actually wanting. Should he fight or should he not fight? And that is why then he asks this question again in the first and second verse of the third chapter. Okay. Now, these verses which we are studying now, it may seem as if these are the characteristics of a yogi. So it may seem that I have nothing to do with this. Mera kya lena dena hai? I don't want to become a yogi, nor does Krishna expect me to become a yogi. But that is not the case actually. We will see, especially from verses 58 onwards, or more than 58, 59 onwards, the application of this verse is very practical. Okay. Can someone explain the meaning of this verse 2.59? And what are the most important words of this verse? Anybody? Okay, have you understood this verse 58 and 59? Have you understood? Has anybody not
Yeah,
understood?
it's
Anybody who has not understood this verse 58, 59?
Prabhu, I think we had a very deep discussion last time speaking
Yeah,
about higher taste, where you
correct.
you had shared your story about how you turned from non-veg to vegetarian. I mean,
Huh,
that is definitely a good example here when it comes to the when you have the the taste, when we taste the higher, let's say when we experience a higher taste, it will definitely have a impact on our consciousness, and it will help us to guide us in a way that we are focused on the right path, let's say in our case Krishna consciousness.
correct. So what do you understand by higher taste? And how is it
so
important for our discussion, studying Bhagavad Gita and our daily life?
So, I mean, it'll involve the other. In verse number 59, Krishna talks about controlling the senses. That it's very important for us to control our senses, and he gives an analogy of a turtle like a hard skin. And he also says that all that the sensory objects, basically we have to control ourselves from those to भोग, मतलब वो उन sensory objects के भोग से अपने आप को रोकना है. We have to stop ourselves from you know getting immersed into the taste
Sense
of those sensory objects.
Yeah.
And how it is to be done is that we have this. He says that it's very the those sensory objects are very strong. They actually control our mind very. I mean, they can forcefully carry away the mind. So for that, the mind has to be put into the Krishna consciousness. So if we, and there was another thing that these are very temporarily. This doesn't give the satisfaction which this doesn't give a satisfaction in which the human body would be human, not exactly human. We will be satisfied, and whose we here is the soul. So
Hmm.
they say that a if we if the senses use or get those sensory objects, there is no end to what they want. They are um, very small, short-lived sort of, and there is no end to this materialistic world. So how do we stabilize it? Is by giving them the real taste. That is what the soul is seeking, and the soul is seeking the Krishna consciousness, or
Correct.
putting our mind in the Krishna's work. I mean, that will be more demonstrated in verses further on, how
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
how
Correct. Correct.
with
Yes.
examples.
Fine. 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 So basically, what are we supposed to take back as a key point from this verse is today, meaning this one, the verse number 59, Param Drishtva Nivartate. Param is the supreme. Drishtva is the meaning here it is mentioned as experiencing, but you can also view it as the highest uh, taste. Okay. And so at any point of time, we will realize that we are at a certain level, but there is something, and we are trying to achieve an object or a goal of a certain level. But then we will realize that there is something even better than that. So then there are two perspectives to it. One is a material perspective, right? For example, if I get a job in a certain company at a say managerial designation, I will realize that there is a senior manager designation also available, and I want that. After I get that, then I would want a vice president designation, or a executive vice president, or a CEO. So this will go on. And if I am a vice president or a CEO of a big company, I would want to become a CEO of even a bigger company. And after becoming the CEO of the biggest company, then I would want to become the CEO of the biggest group. And then I would want to become a prime minister of a country, or the biggest countries, or whatever it is. There is no end to it. Okay. So that means what? That Krishna, when he is talking about Param Drishva, he is not talking about the material benefits. One material benefit is better than another material benefit from one perspective, and the second material benefit is better than the first one from another perspective. But he is not asking us to go behind these material benefits. Definitely, he wants the fact that he has explained the knowledge about the soul itself means that he wants us to focus on the aspect of the soul and not on the body. At one end, when he says that Dehino Asmin Yatha Dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara, the soul moves from one body to another at the time of death. Okay. So itself means that he's actually talking about transcending the bodily platform. So my body, my job, my family, my car, my bank balance, my nationality, my region, my religion, my this, that, everything, if you look at it, is a factor of the body. The moment we give up the body, everything, absolutely everything, including the body, will lose its identity. Now, why would Krishna ask us to go after these bodily parameters if the body itself is supposed to be given? So that means he is talking about something which is beyond body, which is beyond matter. That is where the spiritual aspect comes into picture. So he is saying that if you focus on the spiritual aspect, the Atma aspect, okay, you will not need to worry about the bodily aspect. So he is saying that you should give up the taste for material objects and focus on the taste for spiritual objects. That is the key instruction he is giving us here. Okay. Any questions so far? Anybody? Jijit Prabhu, Deepak
No,
Prabhu, Rohini
no,
Mataji, Garima Mataji, Jitu Prabhu. Any question till verse number 59, whatever we have covered? No?
No, nothing from my side. Thanks, Prabhu.
Okay, so let's start with verse number 60. And who's going to talk about verse number 60?
me, Prabhu.
Jijit Prabhu, right? Okay. You are ready? We'll chant the verse first.
Okay.
Yatato hyapi kaunteya.
Yatato yai
Hyapi
kaunteya
kaunteya. Purushasya vipaschitah.
purushasya
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 vipashyatah
vapashitaha
vipachita
Indriyani pramathini.
indriyani
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 pramathini
pramatini
pramatini
Haranti prasabham manaha.
haranti
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 prashabham
prasabham
prasabham
manaha.
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 Okay.
Hare
Translation.
Krishna. The senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcefully carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. Okay. So I would like to start with the main translation itself, where the basic of meaning for this particular verse is that this is especially for those yogis who are who are higher level, who are the personalities who have probably the complete knowledge, or who has that discriminating power to differentiate between right and wrong. These are they are the yogis. They have uh, thousands of years of tapasya behind them. Even the main point Krishna is trying to give here is that even they can be brought down by sense objects, sense gratification. So I mean, especially the example given here is for the great sage Vishwamitra, where he was misled by Menaka into sensual pleasures. So nobody is safe from sensual gratification unless you are engaged in the higher taste. Here in our case, Krishna consciousness. So, and again, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada has mentioned about Yamunacharya, who is also a great saint, and he has especially highlighted where he highlighted in the purport where our mind should be engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and we will be able to overcome any challenges. I mean, I'm not reading the full verse purport. Just trying to go overview the main meaning of the verse. And also there is examples given. Prabhuji, I think I'm going far away from the meaning.
Okay. Just try to make it concise,
Yeah,
and you can just give the summary of what you have understood.
yeah. So summary here is that even the greatest of sages can be affected by the senses if you don't have the eye control. And here in our case, we need to focus on Krishna consciousness such a way that we can overcome this as well.
Okay, but why would the persons um, meaning get swayed away by the senses? Why?
Because of what they see or sense, like whatever they see through their senses, observe, or let's say feel through their senses, and they're getting distracted because they are not focusing or maybe they have not had the higher taste.
Okay, okay. So what is that we are supposed to do? We as individuals, what are we supposed to do?
Yes, individuals should definitely stay away
Con-
from. Yeah, basically, we need to have control over senses.
mind,
Really?
Um, um,
mind,
Is it so? Meaning, is Krishna expecting us to have control over our senses?
mind.
yeah, control the
Or
mind.
even the mind?
Not control, but to direct the mind in Krishna's consciousness or Krishna's word. So basically, uh, it's said that rather than controlling, if we are doing anything, say suppose we are we are if we are, say suppose if we direct ourselves, as in our sensory objects wants to say I want to work, okay, or I want to do something, then if I smell the flowers of the Krishna. Uh, if I do, uh, I do everything in the service of Krishna and also put my mind in the Krishna consciousness. That is, I mean, it will cover the next verse. Prabhuji, do you want me to? And that's what I
Okay,
understood.
we will speak
Mataji,
about it. We will
maybe the
speak about
Prabhuji,
it.
one word is engagement of senses, probably. We engage ourselves so that we cannot control mind, probably by engaging ourselves in Krishna consciousness or services.
Yeah.
I think that's what maybe Mataji is trying to say. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can understand what Krishna actually intends to say. Okay. So when we studied verse number 58, what did Krishna tell us? That one is expected to withdraw his senses from sense objects, right? So what are sense objects? I see a good BMW car and I feel like having it. Or I see that World Cup cricket is going on. I immediately feel like watching that match. Or a new movie is getting released, or some party is happening somewhere, or something like this one, my mind gets attracted, my senses get attracted to it. So these are sense objects which drive you wild if you don't consume or if you don't possess and enjoy that sense object. And what happens by doing that? For the moment you will feel you are satisfied. अरे watch match देख लिया cricket का, इंडिया पाकिस्तान वर्ल्ड कप के सेमीफाइनल में इंडिया डिफीटेड पाकिस्तान, wow, I am so happy. Huh? But 2 days, 5 days, 20 days later, you will feel you are back to normal. Then you will want another match or some other pleasure. किसी रेस्टोरेंट में जाके खाना खाया तो what we feel, या क्या मस्त खाना था, excellent. So 1 day, 2 days, you will feel happy about it. Again, you will crave for a similar taste or some other taste. Now, this is not giving you everlasting pleasure. So what Krishna is saying is, if you try to pursue sense gratification, you will never become permanently happy. So if you want to become permanently happy, you need to go for something which can give you a higher taste. Okay. So what is it trying to communicate to us? Ki going for sense gratification is not right. That is bottom line. But going away from sense gratification, there can be multiple methods. Of that, the grossest, meaning the least effective, is to withdraw your senses from the sense objects. Although he gives an example of a tortoise here, okay, the next verse he talks about it as that the previous method is defective. Although it is good to a certain extent. Meaning, I always give this example. I might have spoken in this class also before. So there are three levels of a result or action: bad, good, and excellent. Okay. So when a child fails in the school in a subject, it is bad. But when the child scores 80 marks, we say it is good result. But let's say the ability of the child was extremely good. He deserves to get 100 out of 100 in maths. In that way, in that case, would you say that the 80 marks that he has received is good? No, you will say it is bad. Yeah. So the same marks, depending on what you compare with, becomes either good or bad. So when you compare with a failed student's marks, you say that 80 is good. But when you compare with his ability of getting 100 out of 100, you say then 80 becomes bad. So similarly, sense control is good, but it is not recommended. Why? Because this particular verse, Rasavarjam Rasopyasya, this line highlights the drawback of sense control. So he's saying even if you stop the, even if you restrict yourself from sense object, the taste for sense object remains. So which means we took an example of a diabetic patient. Even if he is aware that he is not supposed to eat sweets, his mind is continuously craving for it. So at a certain point of time, his senses will revolt. His mind will say to the intelligence, do hell with you. I want sweets, I will eat. And that time he will eat so much that he would have probably not eaten that same quantity over the period of whatever number of days or months. So Krishna is saying that if you reach that stage where your taste for sense object is remaining, then this particular method of restricting yourself from sense enjoyment is bad. So then what is the solution to this one? He is saying you have to experience higher taste by remaining fixed in Krishna consciousness. Now he is giving a reason why that sense control as a method is not appropriate. Okay. So he is taking a, a characteristic of a person, okay, who has two qualities. One is yatato, okay, and one is vipaschitaha. What does yatato mean? That he is taking efforts to control the senses. And vipaschitaha, meaning he has knowledge which helps him discriminate between right and wrong. Both are important, right? So when we say in marketing, there are two factors which assist a decision: ability and willingness. I may have a willingness to buy a Rolls Royce, but I don't have the financial ability. Or I may have a ability to buy a Nano, but I don't have a willingness to buy it. Both of these, when they come together, then the decision happens. Otherwise, the decision doesn't happen. Similarly, with respect to sense control, what Krishna is saying is you may possess the perfect knowledge of what is right, what is wrong. But if you do not take efforts to apply that knowledge and control the senses, then that is useless. Or you may take all the efforts that you can to control your senses, but you do not even know what is right, what is wrong. So you may think that controlling the senses when I go to a temple is important, but I can let my senses loose if I go to a party or a movie or a match, cricket match or whatever it is. Then that is incorrect. That means you do not possess the right knowledge. But here the example Krishna is giving is of a person who knows what is right, what is wrong. He possesses that level of knowledge by which he can discriminate between right and wrong. And he is also taking conscious efforts to control the senses. Right? Now, despite the ability and the willingness of this person to control the senses, now Krishna is saying that you still, the senses are very strong and impetuous. They are so strong and impetuous that they can forcibly carry away the mind of such a person. So what happens? Let's say a person has been told, let's say, we'll take the same example of a diabetic person. Now, this person is walking on the street, and let's say gulab jamun are being fried over there, and in another shop, there is vada pav is being fried. uh, and he is walking. So, usko malum hai, both of them are not supposed to be eaten by him, but his mind will get attracted, his senses will get attracted to the smell, to the way the frying process is happening, to इतना अच्छा दिख रहा है गुलाब जाम और इतना अच्छा दिख रहा है वड़ा, तो वो पागल हो जाएगा बंदा. ही विल से टू, मन में बोलेगा डॉक्टर को, भाई डॉक्टर, तुम और तुम्हारा मेडिसिन, है ना, विल टॉक अबाउट इट आफ्टर 2 or 3 days, नॉट नाउ. I first want to eat. So now what has happened? He applied sense control for a good amount of time, but finally, just because of the smell of these foodstuffs, he said, nothing doing, I want to eat it. He was not able to control the senses. So this is what Krishna is saying. By despite possessing the knowledge and despite taking conscious efforts, you may still not be able to control your senses. एंड इसके लिए उसने विश्वामित्र का एग्जाम्पल दिया है. Okay, so Prabhupada has given two perfect examples in this context. One example is of a person who had reached a very, very, very high level of maturity in terms of meditation, but just because of the tinkling of the anklets of Menaka, this person Vishwamitra, he gave up his meditation and he fell for Menaka, and then he married her, had sex enjoyment with her, and after a while then he realized what nonsense has he done, because then his stage, his knowledge, his practice, his control and all started diminishing, and then he realized that he has fallen down, and then he again gave up the householder life and again started meditation, and he came back to his original stage. So the point here is, in these meditation and all these are artificial methods of sense control. They do not give you permanent result. But what Krishna, Prabhupada gives as an example is of Yamunacharya. What Yamunacharya says, this is very important. Yadavadhi mama cheta Krishna padaravinde. Very important line. Why this he was able to control? He was also oriented towards sex life with, I'm not sure whether it was his wife alone or he used to go to prostitutes, because there was another saintly character who used to visit a prostitute, but then when he realized that he was making a mistake, he took the hairpin of that prostitute and he pierced both of his eyes so that he will not be able to see anything, let alone prostitute or anybody. He doesn't want to see anything, and then he focused fully on Krishna. There was one another saint, I don't know whether he is the same one or not. So he is Krishna is Prabhupada is writing that this person Yamunacharya, he was a great saint, but he applied sense control by focusing on Krishna. So he is saying, since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of Krishna, I have been enjoying a new transcendental pastime, a transcendental relationship with Krishna. Whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. So this is what you achieve. Okay, I'll not go deeper into it, but for a very small incident, I'll tell you. Um, Haridas Thakur was a very saintly devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna himself. Krishna Krishna took avatar specifically for Kali Yuga as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's a quite a deep topic. We will speak about it some other time. So Haridas Thakur was Brahma. So Brahma, there was a background to it. I will not go again into it. But Brahma, he descended in the past time, like when Krishna came, so many other devatas and devis came to assist him in his big lila. Similarly, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, many of his fellow devotees came. So Brahma also came. So Brahma took the form of Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur used to chant the holy name of Krishna for almost 22 hours in a day. So one day, either Lakshmi Mata or Saraswati Mata, either of them, she came to his doorstep in the form of a prostitute. And she was trying to entice him in, you know, having a relationship with her. So Haridas Thakur did not deviate even for a single moment. So he said he passed a kind of a chaddar or something like that to her and asked her to sit on the veranda until he finished his chanting. And then he said, then I will attend to you. So she waited throughout the night. And this person, Haridas Thakur, was just chanting and chanting and chanting throughout the night. Finally, she realized that she cannot deviate him. Yeah, and he passed the test successfully, whatever she had taken, and she left. Now, this is possible in devotional service. If you try to apply artificial sense control of the mind or of the senses, there is a high probability that one will fail. Why? That is what Krishna says, that because the senses are very strong and impetuous. So even if you have a person of a discerning nature, you are able to discriminate right and wrong, and you are consciously taking efforts to do that, still there is a good chance you will fail. So does that mean that we should not do sense control? What do you think?
Sachin, so I have two questions over here.
Huh,
My first question is related to the senses. So senses can be used for bad purpose and also for good purpose, right?
correct.
So if it is good purpose, then how can we control the senses? Because it's for good purpose, and that's a human tendency, right? So we cannot control that. And
Correct.
also on
So
the same time,
can you give an
the second
example of good
question.
purpose? Can you give an example of good purpose?
Uh, so let's say if let's say some we are going on a street and somebody asking for some help and you are going to give we are going to give some help to that person. So
But
that is
that is not, that has nothing to do with sense control, na? Sense control की जरूरत कब पड़ती है? When you want to enjoy for yourself. Abhi, if somebody is asking for some help on the street, you are helping that person not for your own benefit, but for his benefit, right?
okay.
So
Okay.
that doesn't come into this category.
Okay. Maybe I am not able to find out the right
Okay,
example
I
right
will give
now.
you an example.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's say you want to smell nice fragrance. Okay, so आपको you have two options. You can smell roses and all that stuff, or you can smell roses which are offered to Krishna. Okay, to the lotus feet of Krishna. तो अगर आप
Hmm.
normal flower smell करते हैं, तो that does not give you any spiritual benefit. But अगर flowers which have been offered to Krishna आप smell करोगे, तो वहां पे sense control की जरूरत नहीं, because that is a prasad itself for you.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Krishna is actually talking about sense control in from two perspectives. One is we should not do पाप. ओके, तो कोई भी चीज अगर पाप की तरफ ओरिएंटेड है, तो डेफिनेटली दैट इज नॉट राइट. ओके, देन the next level comes up is when you want to enjoy something material, but in a legitimate manner. Okay. So legitimate manner क्या होता है? That is the karma kanda that we talked about, right? So following the Shastra, the Vedic scriptures, doing as what they have asked us to do and not doing as what they have mentioned not to do. Okay, but for some material benefit. For example, if in Vedas it is mentioned that you worship so and so Devi or Devta on so and so day so many times by chanting so and so mantra, then you will get a very good, beautiful wife, or you will get millions of dollars, you will get a lot of money, or you will get a lot of land and property, yeah, power, yeah, influence, yeah, whatever it is. So that means that you are following the Shastra because you wanted some material benefit. And that happens because the objective is sense gratification. तो कृष्णा इन दोनों के लिए बोल रहा है यहाँ पे कि you need to perform apply sense control so that you do not go haywire. And वो
Okay.
sense control का drawback क्या है वो अभी बता रहा है.
Okay. So Sachin Prabhu, I mean, again, on the same time, so Vishwamitra got diverted for Mohin, for the girl, and he married finally. So that is okay. I mean, this he did realize that okay, he has done mistake because he
Correct.
was a sadhu.
Correct.
What about the normal human being? I mean, is that bad thing
नहीं
for a
नहीं
normal
नहीं.
human being?
No. It's not bad. It's
Mhm.
not bad. तो
Because
हम लोग अभी वही बोल रहे थे ना कि एक्सेलेंट, गुड और बैड ऐसे तीन कैटेगरीज है. ओके. तो इफ यू marry somebody in a legitimate manner and you have kids and those kids are also raised in a nice religious atmosphere, then it is definitely not bad. It is right. And that if it were not right, then Krishna would not create this institution of varnashram, right? So when we go to the fourth chapter, you will see in the 13th verse, Krishna says, Chatur Varnyam Maya Srushtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. So he's saying Chatur Varnya, the four Varnas of Brahmacharya, Grihasthashram, or sorry, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, and the four ashramas, that is Brahmacharya, Grihasthashram, Vanaprasthashram, and Sannyasashram. The system of Varnashram Dharma, Maya Srushtam, I have created based on what? Guna and Karma Vibhagasha, based on the qualities and based on the activities of an individual. It is not based on bodily characteristics. So he is clearly saying over there that this system I have created, if this system of marrying a woman or a husband or a man and having children and raising them nicely and educating them nicely, if this were bad, Krishna would not create it at all. So this is perfect. Vishwamitra married because why Vishwamitra's marriage was incorrect? That is because he wanted to become Brahmarshi. Okay, so there are Rajarshis and there are Brahmarshis and all that. So he wanted to become Brahmarshi, and in that, complete celibacy is expected. 100% celibacy. Otherwise, you cannot call yourself as a Brahmarshi. And that is when it is considered him it as a fall down. Fall down meaning what? You are on the 10th floor. Okay, you want to go to the 20th floor, but you come to the 5th floor. You are definitely not at the ground level. But 10th से 5th से आके उसको fall down बोलते हैं. इसके लिए because what he wanted to achieve and where he was already situated, considering that it is a fall down. But हमारे लिए it is perfect because we were expected to function like a gruhastha and we have married. So it is perfect.
Okay. Sachin Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Mm.
Any question?
Prabhuji, yeah, I'll just clarify, maybe a doubt, or I'll just clarify. So when you said mentioned the example that if we want to smell, and we should go ahead and smell Krishna's the flowers which is given at the Krishna's lotus feet. So that's one example. Okay, now if we take it another example. Say, for example, if we want to have a car or if we want to have a house, okay, that doesn't mean that Krishna is saying no to these things. But if we say that we want to have a car out of which we use the car, say, to do our work, that is our livelihood, and we also consciously go to temple and devote that car to take maybe other people or to use that car in the service of Krishna. And that doesn't mean that we will not go uh, to go anywhere for the enjoyment, because it will depend upon our enjoyment in the sense a restaurant or somewhere. So again, it will depend upon our spiritual level, to what extent we are at, and we are using those sensory objects to satisfy our senses. Is that correct? Because there is no line defined. Yes, this is right and this is wrong. Correct. So it all will depend upon our level of spirituality and those senses asking for those sensory objects. Is it like that or no?
So Mataji, कैसा है ये कि we are trying to discuss about a topic and the application of that topic, uh, which generally pertains to very high level of devotional stage.
Ji.
Okay, so this does not meaning there is no one standard answer to say कि हाँ कार लेना अच्छी कार लेना गलत है. No, definitely not. Okay, but who is doing it? Let's say there is a sannyasi in ISKCON and he borrows money, $1 million borrow किया उसने लोगों से, and because he wanted to buy Rolls Royce. So from that perspective, it is wrong for him. But अभी हम लोग अगर खरीदते हैं तो it is our necessity, right? We as a family cannot function without a car.
Yeah.
But उसमें भी क्या होता है कि then we have to apply sensibility, which we anyway do, कि भाई मेरी ability, financial ability इतनी है तो मैं उतने में बजट में जो कार बनती है मैं ले लूंगा, right? But what is our primary goal, that we should understand, which is very important. So if buying this car, okay, let's look at it this way. What do you think is the purpose of human life? What do you think?
To get out of the cycle of birth and death.
Yes, correct. Okay. Although I would not say that is the ultimate purpose, there is a purpose even higher than that, which is attaining the highest level of bhakti for Krishna.
Correct.
Because what you spoke about is called as moksha, and moksha is a byproduct of bhakti.
Bhakti.
Yeah. So अगर आप भक्ति करोगे तो मोक्ष मुक्ति देवी बोलते हैं
Inevitably
उसे.
मिलेगा. Yeah.
हाँ, वो मुक्ति देवी आपके
Byproduct.
घर के बाहर खड़ी रहेगी आपके लिए. Okay, so that is actually not the objective, but still, for the current discussion, purpose of human life, we can assume achieve that we want to get rid of cycle of birth and death. Now the question we should ask ourselves is, by buying this car, am I going to get completely lost in sense enjoyment? Because of which, am I going to deviate myself from the purpose of human life? If the answer is yes, then you know what you are supposed to do. If the answer is no, again you know what you are supposed to do.
So sensory objects to be taken as secondary, but the prime to make your daily life function, to गृहस्थ आश्रम को चलाने के लिए, but keeping Krishna consciousness in mind. And
Correct.
also the example that you gave of what stage we are and what stage saint, like you mentioned, from the temple. So it's like, example is like when you are starting to trek up the mountain. If you are at a lower level, then even if you fall back or you do something wrong, that's okay. Or like, for example, when you're not supposed to have some water or something, it's okay. But if you are at a very higher peak, then even a smallest mistake can make us go down. So the higher we are in this path, the more conscious, the more refined that we are. So again, the same thing. There is no yes or a no, but it all depends upon our, like you said, from where we are
थोड़ा
coming.
concise रखो, थोड़ा
Okay, yeah,
concise
I
रखो
got it.
आपके
Yeah,
points.
I
Yeah,
got it. I
yes,
got
we are
it. I
losing
got it.
time as well. So
Sure,
yes,
sure.
basically depending on the stage we are in and depending on whether this helps me achieve the purpose of my human life or not, we can actually get answers to our questions. Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
sometimes it becomes mandatory. I cannot say, यार मैं अबू धाबी में जॉब करता हूँ, but I will not buy a car. Why? Because this will deviate me. ऐसा नहीं होगा. Practically, we have to be practical also. It's just that we have to ensure that we continue to perform bhakti. And इसके लिए main क्या होता है कि at this point of time, at this stage of ours, okay, what we are recommended is to chant, chant, and chant. Garima Mataji, if you can go mute if you are not speaking. Yeah. So our first level is basically improve our quality of chanting and quantity of chanting. All these, to start basically controlling the senses or deviating from sense enjoyment and focusing on Krishna, these are actually byproducts. If you focus more on chanting, ये चीज ऑटोमेटिकली होते रहती है, आपको कुछ विशेष एफर्ट डालना नहीं पड़ता है उसमें. Okay, there is a very little time available to do verse number 61. Is it okay if I go a bit 10-15 minute extra today? Or shall I do this tomorrow? If you all are, what do you think? Shall we
Tomorrow we have
stop here?
classes.
Huh?
Tomorrow we have classes.
Sorry,
I
Tomorrow,
think
do you have classes? You
Prabhuji next week.
mentioned
Next.
next
next
week,
week.
next week.
Oh, okay. You mentioned tomorrow, so I got shocked. Okay, tomorrow you have
I
class.
think, shall I break here now or shall we continue with the verse now itself? ये 61 का वर्स अभी ले ले या shall we take it up in the next week?
Prabhuji, I will take it up next week. Is it okay?
ठीक है, I'm okay, I'm okay. No worries. Any other question? Anything? Just because we have 3-4 minutes. What do you think? Okay, let me ask this question to you. Why are you all studying Bhagavad Gita? What do you think?
To get the knowledge, Prabhu,
Which knowledge?
transcendental knowledge, Prabhu.
But आपने तो चालू करने के पहले ही डिसाइड किया था ना मेरे को भगवत गीता सीखना है, तो वो टाइम पे आप क्यों सीख रहे थे?
Prabhu, it's a curiosity. Like, if you
Okay.
ask me personally, in my case, when my father passed away, then these kind of, when we were listening Garud Puran, so that gave me curiosity to understand the science behind soul. So that curiosity lead me to, this
Bhagavad Gita.
path of learning Bhagavad Gita. So, and
Okay. Okay. Any other thought?
Krishna's mercy, Prabhu.
Okay, that is
Yeah, how can
the
you connect spiritually
To
to Krishna?
okay.
to live the
Okay.
life, to
Okay.
live the life the best way, to make
Okay.
the best use of the life that's been given by God.
Okay. Okay. So all what you're saying, meaning to be honest with you, I also understand why Bhagavad Gita should be studied. After I studied Bhagavad Gita 3-4 times, after various people taught me 3-4 times, that is when I realized that many people don't understand this one. Definitely, I had not understood that. Many people think that the only message that Bhagavad Gita has is karma kar phal ki chinta mat kar. But that is not the ultimate message. The ultimate message comes in 18th chapter, verse number 65 and 66. Krishna says, become my devotee, pay your homage, obeisances to me, give up everything, huh? Just surrender unto me. So bhakti is the ultimate objective of studying Bhagavad Gita. Whom to perform bhakti to, why to perform, and at a summary level, how to perform. The details of how to perform bhakti is given in Bhagavatam. So we are actually studying Bhagavad Gita to reach that stage of information which Krishna has given in the Bhakti Yoga related chapters, which is chapter 7 to 12. तो ये जो भी चैप्टर अभी हम लोग पढ़ रहे हैं ना, सेकंड, थर्ड, फोर्थ, फिफ्थ जो पढ़ेंगे, this is a foundation level knowledge by which you will understand how Bhakti Yoga can be easily performed, whereas how these aspects of Gyan Yoga and Dhyan Yoga and all that are so difficult. तो जब वो कृष्णा बोल रहा है कि सेंस कंट्रोल करो, इनिशियली बोला, एंड देन ही सेड कि सेंस कंट्रोल हैज इट्स ओन ड्रॉबैक्स, बट यू नीड टू फोकस ऑन द हायर टेस्ट. एंड व्हाट दैट हायर टेस्ट इज, he will speak in the verse number 61, which we will do next week. And ये जब higher test पता चलती है ना, then we will be able to link these various knowledges that he has given and its application and that with Bhakti Yoga. Then you will understand ये पूरा link कैसा होता है करके. So if at all you are finding things which are थोड़ा बोरिंग लग रहा है या थोड़ा impractical लग रहा है, तो थोड़ा सा पेशेंस रखो, लेट सेकंड चैप्टर, थर्ड चैप्टर कंप्लीट होने दो, देन यू विल स्टार्ट रियलाइजिंग कि ये कैसा लिंक होता है एक दूसरे से. ओके, so we'll end the session for today and we'll meet next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank
Hare
you so
Krishna,
much.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Thanks a lot.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.